Hey everyone, Mike Mulligan here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am a certified orientation and mobility specialist, and in today's video, I'm going to do a review and demonstration of the new Omni Sense white cane tip. So the Omni Sense cane tip is a recently developed cane tip, and I actually have one here in my hand, and in just a second I'll describe it in more detail and kind of what the purpose behind this cane is. But I just want to say that this video is really meant to be an honest review of this cane tip. There's so many different cane tip choices out there that being able to make an informed decision I think is really helpful. And if you can, meet with an orientation mobility specialist to try out the different cane tips I think is also really helpful. But I just wanted to be able to give you an honest review of this cane tip. It is kind of expensive, about $50, so being able to make that informed decision I think is really important. So now I'd like to talk a little bit about what the Omni Sense cane tip is. I'll try my best to describe this cane tip. It's a little bit challenging because it's such a unique cane tip. So I have one here in my hand in front of a black background. One thing I want to mention is that this cane tip is available for both slip-on as well as hook style canes. So this one here is a hook style, so it's easy to change in and out. And another thing I want to mention is that this design is designed for the purpose of the cane tip being able to roll in 360 directions. So that'll make more sense when I talk about it here, but it's designed to do that, and it's kind of based off similar things that they use in warehouses as a way of transporting products or boxes in all different directions. So here in my hand I have the Omni Sense cane tip, and I'm going to try my best here to describe it, but there are two wheels on the left and right, and in the middle there is a black kind of hook, or I don't even know what to call it. I like to call it a hook, and that is designed when on the cane to hold the cane up when it's propped against the wall so it doesn't just roll out because of these wheels. So there are the two wheels on the left and right, and they roll independently from one another. So right now I'm turning the left wheel one way and turning the right wheel the other way. And on there are two kind of little gray sections with red rollers on them. So the red rollers move left and right, and the way they're set up is there's rollers on the left part of the left wheel, and then there's rollers on the right part of the left wheel, and then same on the right side. So on the right side there's the two sections. The left side has red rollers, and the right side of the right wheel has right rollers. So they roll left and right, and that's what gives it the function of being able to travel in that 360 degrees of rolling. So this will all make a little more sense when I do the little demonstration of the cane tip in action. But that's the design. I think it's a pretty cool idea. The cane tip is a little bit heavy and is heavier than a roller ball or a marshmallow roller. Probably one of the heavier cane tips that are out there. Again, so this is the Omni Sense, and let me show you in a demonstration of how this works. Okay, so I'm going to start my demonstration here of the Omni Sense cane tip in action. So right now I'm all along a residential sidewalk in a residential neighborhood. I have the Omni Sense cane tip attached to the end of my white cane, and I'm putting it down on the ground now, so it's at 12 o'clock. So with this cane tip, first thing kind of straight off the bat is there's that little black hook that I talked about earlier when I was describing the cane tip, and that needs to be facing up for the cane tip to work, or for the cane tip to roll. So right now it's facing up, so my cane tip is now able to roll left and right and forward and backwards. But if it's down, cane tip isn't going anywhere. So that hook has got to be up. I think it gets pretty easy after a while to just know if it's up or down, but it can be a little bit frustrating sometimes if you just grab your cane and you're ready to go and it goes down and you can't go anywhere, so you have to flip it. So the next thing I want to point out is this cane tip is designed to roll in a 360 degree motion. So right now I'm just kind of making some circles with the cane tip on the ground, both clockwise circles and counterclockwise circles. It can go diagonal to the left, diagonal to the right. So that's a big selling point of this cane tip, is its ability to roll in all directions. I find it rolls the best just going forwards and backwards because of those four wheels on there. It does a good job of doing that, rolling forwards and backwards. And this cane tip is designed for constant contact use, not for two-point touch. Because the cane tip is on the heavier side, doing two-point touch which I'm kind of demonstrating here, just tapping it left and right, that's really not sustainable because the cane tip's heavy. My hand's already getting tired from doing, what is that, like 10, 15 taps left and right. So 2-point touch is not what this cane tip is designed for. So if you or somebody you know does 2-point touch, this probably won't be the best cane tip for you or them. But it is designed for constant contact. But this brings me to kind of one of the cons of this cane tip is, if you're doing full constant contact, so moving your cane left and right, so that inch or two past each shoulder, it is kind of heavy and sluggish in my opinion. So right now I'm just kind of demonstrating, I'm moving the cane left and right. The cane tip is rolling left and right, doing constant contact. And compared to either a roller ball tip or a marshmallow roller, this is noticeably slower and sluggish and a little bit heavy. So my arm is actually getting a little bit tired already from trying to do constant contact because of the friction from rolling the cane left and right. So one issue with that is, I think, is a safety concern, is if somebody is using this and they do constant contact, if your hand gets tired or you stop sweeping the cane fast enough or wide enough, that can be a safety issue, because if you miss something along the travel path, or you're not sweeping wide enough, you can miss something and that can be a safety issue. So that's, I think, one of the biggest downsides, in my opinion, of this cane tip is its sluggishness and kind of heavy feel to it. Another thing about this cane tip that I noticed when doing like constant contact is the cane tip is kind of loud and squeaky. So when I'm doing constant contact, again, it's still a little sluggish and heavy when I'm doing this now, constant contact, but I find the cane tip to be kind of loud, which can be a little bit distracting and even affect some of the auditory feedback that I get from the cane. So again here, just doing constant contact, left and right. In my opinion, it's a little bit louder than either a roller ball or a marshmallow roller. Might be a little hard to hear, the airplane flying over my head now. But again, that's another downside I found of this cane, is its kind of its loudness to it. So there's a few other things I want to talk about this cane tip that I find are a downside, and that is it's a little challenging to do techniques like touch and drag. So right now I'm touching kind of the middle of the sidewalk and dragging over to the right to find the shoreline. It just kind of stops and gets stuck at the shoreline. So a roller ball would kind of roll over the edge so you get a better idea of what's going on that either grass like it is here or shoreline. But this just tends to stop right there. Which can be okay, but I find that can be a little bit frustrating if you're trying to get an idea of what is beyond what you're touching and dragging. Also, for a technique like touch and slide, when you're coming up to a corner to feel the texture changes, can't do that with this cane tip. So right now I'm kind of demonstrating that. I'm touching in front and then sliding it forward. Again, doesn't really work that well with this cane tip. Another thing I notice is if you're trying to switch from, say, an index finger grasp to a pencil grasp, the cane tip just kind of wants to roll out from under you, especially if you're on a little bit of a slant. So that can be hard to do quick switches of cane tips, cane grasp, and that can be an issue if you're trying to change really quickly for whatever technique, maybe switching to going upstairs and then you drop your cane. That can be kind of inconvenient. So that's another few things I've noticed about this cane tip. So what I think this cane tip is good at is being able to just have it out in front of you and pushing it straight. It seems to do a good job of just kind of rolling. You can move it a little bit left and right to detect the terrain. So this could be helpful for somebody with a good amount of functional vision who just needs a little extra warning about changes in texture or drop-offs in the environment. But for somebody who's doing full constant contact and who needs to do that all the time, I'm not sure how well this cane tip will work. And a few other things I want to point out is how does it do on different terrain. So right now I brought my cane tip up onto this grass lawn. If I'm pushing it forward, it seems to do pretty well. So just kind of pushing it forward. Go over this hose here. Oh, never mind, going under the hose. So pushing it forward seems to do okay. But trying to do constant contact here on the grass is super sluggish and heavy, not really sustainable. Getting caught a lot. I'm passing over a little sidewalk here, back onto the grass. So pushing it seems to work okay, but trying to do constant contact on this grass doesn't seem to work so well. There's a little bit of dirt here. Again, constant contact does okay on the dirt. I'm a little sluggish. I also tried this on on some sand. Didn't work well in the sand, and sand even seemed to get caught a little bit in the rollers, causing some issues for its rolling ability. So again, I'm back on the sidewalk here. I'll just do one little walk back down the sidewalk. So right now I'm doing constant contact. Works okay. A little bit loud, a little bit sluggish. But when I just push it out in front of me, going over some cracks here, does a pretty good job of not getting stuck. So that's my demonstration of this Omnisense cane tip in action. So overall, I was kind of disappointed with this new Omnisense white cane tip for several reasons. So I do think this cane tip can be helpful for someone who maybe has a good amount of usable vision, who's really looking for a cane tip that they can put out in front of them and just push forward, maybe move left and right to feel those big changes in terrain or texture or drop-offs, maybe a curb or stairs or any other large obstacle that might be in their travel path. But really overall, I was kind of disappointed with this cane tip, and here are some of the reasons why. So one, it's an expensive cane tip. So having a cane tip that cost about $50, that's pretty expensive for a cane tip. A lot of cane tips are about $10 or less. I know this cane tip's more durable, so that might make up for it in the long run, but paying $50 up front can be an expensive cost for a cane tip. It also is heavy and slow, and this is something that I didn't really like about this cane tip. When you're doing constant contact, so sweeping the cane left and right, it's noticeably heavy and slow. I can feel it in my arm gets tired moving it left and right. And I think that is actually a safety concern, because if you're someone who's doing constant contact, if you're going too slow with your cane tip, you might miss an obstacle or a change in terrain or a drop off that might cause an injury. So if it's slowing a person down when they're sweeping the cane left and right, that can really be a safety issue. And it's noticeable, it's tiring, it's hard to use this cane tip when you're doing constant contact like you normally would for orientation mobility. For the long run, or so if you're going out for a long walk. So a few other things I was disappointed about with this cane tip is when doing constant contact, so sweeping the cane left and right, it's actually pretty squeaky and loud. And that can be pretty distracting and makes it hard to hear the auditory cues that you would normally get when using a cane doing constant contact. Also, it's challenging to do some of the specific orientation and mobility skills like touch and drag or touch and slide. And that can be a downside if the person who's using this cane tip needs those skills to get to where they're going safely. And then finally, it's a little bit hard to feel subtle texture changes when using this cane tip, unlike other cane tips where you get a better idea of what those subtle texture changes are in the environment. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this little review and demonstration of this new Omnisense cane tip was helpful. I definitely recommend, if you can, trying it out with an orientation mobility specialist to see if it's really a good fit for you or not. But hopefully this can help you make an informed decision on whether this Omnisense cane tip is a good choice or if you should go with a different cane tip. So thank you so much for joining me, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. And if you click that little bell icon, you'll be alerted when new videos are available. Have a wonderful day.